Hi, I'm Malik Tijani, and welcome back to my podcast. Episode two? Episode two, let's go with that. Um, and if you're new here, we basically talk about everything in life, specifically kind of like things that pertain to your mindset in terms of um, confidence, anxiety, procrastination, everything that we kind of deal with in our daily lives on a regular. So it kind of applies to everybody. And today we'll be talking about procrastination, which it's fun. It's funny because I was like this close to procrastinating this video to tomorrow because I was just like, as you can see, I'm pretty tired, pretty worn out. But you know what? I was like, why would I go against exactly what I'm about to teach? So I was like, you know what? Let's just knock out this video real quick. Um, and with procrastination, so what it means, first of all, is kind of putting off of tasks until a later time because we kind of have this idea of like, oh, we can do it later. Since we don't necessarily always have to do it now. Most commonly in our schoolwork where it's we have homework that's due in 2 weeks, and so we have 2 weeks to do this assignment, and we're just like, oh yeah, I'll just put it off. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. I'll do it tomorrow. And then it gets to the deadline, and we're just like, okay, let's do it now because the deadline's here. So it's pretty common in school, but I would also like to talk about like how common it is in our lives and kind of the stuff that we know in our heads, in the back of our minds, but we kind of put off simply because we don't want to think about them right now, or we simply just don't want to deal with them right now. I say this because for me, I was a long time offender, or like just like perfect example of this procrastination, where I would just procrastinate most of the time, like making friends or like working on myself in a sense, kind of moving here from Nigeria in 2018, where I simply thought, oh, I'll just do that in college. I can push this all off until later. And I did that for years and years and years. And then COVID came when I was stuck at home for 8 months, and I was like, get me back in school, please. I don't get me wrong, I love my family, but staying home for 8 months, like in and out, doing the exact same thing, I was like, I'm I'm ready. Like, please get me back in school. And that's kind of when I stopped procrastinating the stuff in my life that was really important that I kind of psych myself self out of in the past and tell myself like, oh, I can do this later. It's no big deal. Um, so one of the ways that helps me with procrastination is micro focusing. So I don't know if this is an actual term, but I kind of heard someone else say it, and I was like, yeah, that's perfect for what I do. Where we focus on each step of the way instead of the big goal, because a lot of the times the big goal of this project or this whatever where we want to go from 0 to 100 is really overwhelming, and where we just kind of psych ourselves out to not do that task and to push it off like, oh, I'll just do it later because it's so overwhelming. But with micro, if you micro focus, you're focusing on, if there's 100 steps, for example, to this project, you focus on each individual step one at a time. So you give your all to each step one by one, and eventually it builds and builds to where you finish the task instead of just thinking, "Oh, I have to get 100 steps done today to finish this assignment," where it's just like, yeah, it's just like a lot. Um, so that's one way that kind of helps me, and kind of once you get in the habit of non-procrastination, you it sticks really well if you stay consistent. So you start to build all these time management skills where you kind of do stuff ahead of time, or you do stuff in anticipation of other things that may come up. Because a lot of the times when we procrastinate one thing, we procrastinate a lot of other things, right? Because if we do it with this one thing, it's like bleeds over to everything else in our lives. So, and what can happen is that once everything starts to kind of crash in on ourselves, we get even more overwhelmed and we just get stressed and anxious while procrastinating. It's crazy because we as people, we tend to get more stressed and more anxious the more we do procrastinate, which you would think would like allow us to jump into action right now in order to relieve this feeling. Well, we just procrastinate even more, which increases our stress and anxiety levels even more and more and more. So, and most of the time, when we sit down and decide to tackle this task, we find out it's not too bad. At least in my case, a lot of the times when I thought it would take like, oh, it's gonna take 10 hours, this is gonna suck. I don't want to do this. And I sat down and it took like an hour, maybe less. And I was just like, why did I avoid, doing this thing for so long? And a lot of the times just like the fear or just like the anxiety around that topic, around that subject is uh, like just brainwashes us into thinking it's gonna be worse than it actually is. And a lot of times we can do the opposite because like we might underestimate how long something takes. Where we're just like, oh, this will take 30 minutes, this will take 45 minutes, no big deal, I can do whatever. And then you sit down the day before the deadline, okay, let's probably get started. And it takes you you need an all-nighter to finish this homework that you thought was gonna take 45 minutes, 30 minutes. So a lot of times we can also like underestimate the amount of time that we need to finish this task. Um, and that's kind of just with like school stuff, not even like in regards to life stuff where we put off working on ourselves, we put off working out, we put off working on our mental health, or put off talking to people, growing all these things that we want to do eventually. But that's the thing, we always think eventually. So we always like put it off. It's a future thing. But you have to get started right now. It's not gonna take one day. You're not gonna become like a motivational speaker overnight, like who's the best at communication. You're not gonna become ripped in the gym like off rip like overnight. You need to like start today and steadily like build those habits every single day as much as you can, and eventually it gets to the level where you are where you want to be, instead of just putting it off consistently for years and years and years. Um, And yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to y'all about today. You can tell fumbling my words. I'm pretty tired, but I really didn't want to procrastinate this video, because that would just defeat the whole point of the video. And yeah, I kind of leave it off at that. I should be getting a mic tomorrow. We can play around with that, maybe get some better audio quality. Eventually, step up the video as well. But now I just want to push out as many videos as I can, for y'all. And yeah, like, subscribe, and follow. Follow my Instagram at Coaching with Malik for kind of daily posts, for daily mindset posts. And that's it. I'll see y'all next time.